Hello BookTube, my name is Adrian and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be filming my July wrap-up. Strangely enough, I managed to read 21 books in the month of July. I don't know what exactly happened to me this month, but I think I went a little insane and I read 21 books. I will say now though that the thumbnail for this video is deceiving because I do not actually have all 21 books to show you, to hold up and show you. I just pulled books off my bookshelf because I wanted the physical representation of what 21 books actually looked like, and so I tried to find some that were around the same size as the books I actually read just for like accuracy's sake, which I'm just saying was way more work than I probably needed to put into that. But it's a pretty cool picture. Because I read so many books this month, I decided I wanted to do a little bit of a statistic section of this. And so if you like this part, let me know and maybe I will do it again in future videos. A few of those statistics are going to be right here. And so I read 21 books in July, like I said. That totaled out at 7,305 pages, and during the month I participated in one readathon. I participated in the BookTube-A-Thon and I did vlog that, so there are vlogs on my channel that you can watch for that. A little bit more of a breakdown for these statistics. Of the 21 books I read, 5 of them were sci-fi, 6 of them were fantasy, 6 of them were contemporary, 2 were historical fiction, and 2 were dystopian. 2 were middle grade, 2 were adult books, and 17 were YA books. Clearly I have a thing for YA books, but I feel like that's a BookTube thing, not just a me thing. As for ratings for this month, I had 6 books that I rated 3 stars, 13 books that I rated 4 stars, and 2 books that I rated 5 stars. So yeah. Those are the statistics that I've got for this month. It's kind of interesting to see it all broken down like that. I will link below. I have a spreadsheet that I enter all of my reading stuff in, and that's where I got these statistics from. So I will try and find the place where I got it from and link it down below because I did not make it. I do not have that much talent at all. So I will link below where I got the spreadsheet because it's really cool and I really enjoy it. So this video is going to be really freaking long. So let's just go ahead and get into this video. I'm not going to do full reviews or like go real in depth in my thoughts for each book because if I do this video is going to be even longer and I already don't know how long this video is going to be. I'm also not going to give a synopsis for each of these books. If you want to know what each of these books is about, I will link the GoodReads page for each book in the description down below. So if you want to go check out the synopsis for each of these books, I would recommend going there and having a look because I did enjoy most of these. Obviously, I gave them all 3 to 5 stars. So let's go ahead and get into the book. The very first book I read in the month of July was The Siren by Kiera Cass. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I already really like Kiera Cass. I loved her selection series, and I gave this one 4.5 stars because it was just a little predictable at times. But I loved this book. I have a review that I wrote out on GoodReads. I don't write GoodReads reviews very often just because I am not a very eloquent speaker when it comes to writing reviews. So I don't usually write reviews, but I did for this one and I will link that down below as well. But I definitely enjoyed this book. I would absolutely recommend this one. The second book I read in the month of July was The School for Good and Evil by Soman Chainani, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And I gave this book 4 stars. I gave it 4 stars just because this book was a lot of world developing. Obviously, it's the first book in a series. Because that was a little slow to get into. And some of the characters drove me a little bit bonkers. I really did love the story and where the whole thing went. So it was definitely a good story. I did like it enough that as soon as I finished The School for Good and Evil, I went straight into the second book, which is A World Without Princes. And I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's slightly better rating than the first book because there wasn't as much world building in this, and so it got straight into the story and some of the characters that drove me a little crazy in the first book didn't drive me as crazy in the second book. They were starting to kind of grow up a little bit, and you could definitely see that in their character development. And because of that, I liked it a little bit more. And again, it wasn't, you know, the absolute best thing I've ever read, so it wasn't a 5 stars, but it was a 4.5. It was pretty dang close. After that, I decided I wanted to pick up a reread. I was in the mood for, I don't even know what I was in the mood for, but it ended up being Alienated by Melissa Landers. I was in the mood for this book. I don't exactly know what kind of mood that was, but I just knew I wanted to reread Alienated, and so I went ahead and listened to the audiobook because I have the audiobook, and I gave this 4 stars, which I think is the exact same thing I rated it the first time I read it. I really enjoyed it. It definitely filled whatever need I had at the time, and I enjoyed it. It was a good book. After Alienated, I was still kind of in that mood for wanting these types of books, and so I went straight from Alienated into its sequel, Invaded, which is obviously also by Melissa Landers. And I gave this one 4 stars as well, which again, I'm pretty sure is the exact same rating I gave it the last time I read it. And it was good. Again, really good book. It was a little bit more political than the first book, just because we are switching from Earth to an alien planet, and so there was a lot more of the political side of the world, which was really, really interesting to see. And I think Melissa Landers did such a great job with this world that I really did enjoy this book as well. So yeah, 4 out of 5 stars for Invaded as well. It seems like for this phase of July, I was really in the mood to just reread some books, because after I read Alienated and Invaded, I decided to pick up another reread, and that was The Lux by Anna Gopperson. I read this book several years ago. I think I read this book at least 7 years ago. It's been a long time since I've read this book. And so I decided that I wanted to reread it because I didn't have a whole lot of memory of what happened in it. And I just remember really enjoying this book and this series, and so I wanted to get back into it again. And I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars, which was good. It's kind of like reading a historical soap opera, which was really good. I really, really enjoyed this book. Yeah, it's just a lot of drama and a lot of silly things, but it was definitely a very good book. So after rereading The Lux, I decided to pick up something I hadn't read before, and I picked up The Jane Austen Project by Kathleen Flynn, and I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars. I thought this book was going to be right up my alley because, I mean, it was presented to me as a time travel book where we go back and meet Jane Austen, and I thought that sounded amazing. And yeah, I didn't care for it. I rated it 3 stars. It was kind of an average book, and I only rated it 3 stars because I really enjoyed about the first 3/4 of this book, and then I just didn't like the end. And so I still rated it 3 stars because, like I said, the first 3/4 of the book were really good, and then the last 1/4 wasn't, and I didn't care for it at all. So I only gave this book 3 stars. So it was just kind of a meh book by the end. The next book I read was Letters to the Lost by Bridget Kemmerer. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy this book quite a lot. The premise of this book is that a boy and a girl start writing letters to each other, and they don't know who they're writing to, kind of anonymous pen pal kind of way. And it's told in the sense where it's alternating chapters where you get both points of view. You get the boy's point of view and you get the girl's point of view, even though they don't know who they're writing to. And so as the reader, you obviously know who these people are, and that made the story way more interesting to me. It was a really interesting aspect to a trope that I feel like is done fairly often right now in the secret pen pal or anonymous pen pal kind of thing. And I kind of liked having both sides versus one side because you can see everything a little better, and I definitely liked it a lot. After Letters to the Lost, I picked up Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It was just kind of average read for me. I know this book is really popular on BookTube, but I just didn't care for it all that much. Like I said, it was just average. I mean, the world is interesting in terms of like the magic system and everything, but it just wasn't for me, I guess. But I will say the ending of it did kind of make me interested in wanting to read the next book. Like I said, I just don't think this one was quite for me as it is for everyone else, it seems like. After that, I listened to the audiobook of Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson, and I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars as well. And I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars because there were things that Amy, the main character, does, choices that she makes, that bothered me in a way. She just makes choices that were very ill-advised in just a way that I couldn't reconcile to myself as something that people would do. I loved Roger as a character, and I loved the story for the most part, and I did like the ending and the way things wrapped up, and yeah, I just liked the way that it ended up. And the next book I read in the month of July is probably my favorite book from this year, and I don't know how anything else I read this year is going to top this, but the next book I read was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and I wish I could give it more than 5 out of 5 stars. I wish I could give it like 10 out of 5 stars. This book was so good. But I told both my husband and my mom at different times this, and I think they both thought I was crazy. But I told them that I don't think a book has ever understood who I am as a person on such a more emotional and deep level. And like I said, I think they both thought I was crazy, but just there was so many things about this book and things different characters said and things different characters did and what they experienced that just I related to on such a deep level that just a book has never done before. And so I will gush and rave about this book forever. I just think that if you are a fandom person, that you are a part of fandoms or you love fandoms, that you should definitely look into this book because it explores like so many different angles of, you know, being a person who gets involved in fandoms from every different angle, from a creator angle, from a fan angle, from parents dealing, like parents not understanding, you know, the big deal with fandoms, which was one of those things that I also related to because my mother doesn't understand half of the things that why I'm so invested in things, which was even further represented in my life as I read through this book and was telling her things, and she just was kind of nodding along and didn't really get it, but that's okay, she doesn't need to get it. But yeah, I loved everything about this book, and like I said, I could gush about this book for hours, but that would be a pain in the butt to edit. So I think I'm going to be done talking about this book, but I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely recommend that you read this book if you haven't already. The next book I picked up in July was Legend by Marie Lu. I had this book as an ebook. I didn't read it as an ebook. I actually listened to it as an audiobook. Finally decided that I need to pick this one up, and it was a book that was available as an audiobook from my library that I could check out the same day because I was looking for something else to read. I went ahead and checked it out, and I give it 3 out of 5 stars. It was just a okay, middle of the line dystopian. I did like the characters. I did like the way it ended. It definitely interested me to keep reading. Yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. I did like the premise of it. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in reading on eventually, but maybe not necessarily right now. After that, I decided to do another reread, but I decided to reread Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas, and I decided to reread this because I was starting to think about it because I haven't read Empire of Storms yet, and I started to think about it, and I remembered nothing from this book from the first time I read it. I had zero memory. Everything that I was thinking, oh, this happened, actually happened in Heir of Fire. I had no memory of this book, but I know I read it at some point, so I decided that I was going to go ahead and re-listen to it, reread it. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I will say though, with this book, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, not because of the main character. I actually am having a really hard time liking Aylin. She drives me a little bit crazy, and I just can't stand her half the time. But we get so many other points of view throughout the novel that I still gave it 4 out of 5 stars because I loved all of their sides of the story and having the different inputs and the different views. And so, yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, not for the main character, but because the other characters kind of saved this book for me. When I finished listening to Queen of Shadows, it was about 2 days before the BookTube-A-Thon started, and I wanted a short book that I was hoping to be able to finish before the BookTube-A-Thon started. If you saw my day one vlog, you may know that this didn't happen, because the next book I read was Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shannon McGuire, and I had like 60 pages of this book left when BookTube-A-Thon started. And so I did technically finish this book during BookTube-A-Thon. I read the last 60 pages of it, but I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. And honestly, I think I liked this book more than I did Every Heart a Doorway, the first book, because you are getting to see the backstory for some of the characters. These books are very character driven, and I don't oftentimes like character driven novels, but these are so short and the characters are so interesting and their stories are so interesting that I did really like this one. So yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. And if you've read Every Heart a Doorway, this book follows Jack and Jill from Every Heart a Doorway. And since it was BookTube-A-Thon, I wanted to read some graphic novels. So the next book I picked up for BookTube-A-Thon was Descender Volume 1. This book actually was the first full book I finished during the BookTube-A-Thon and fulfilled the Read a Book Entirely Outdoors challenge. And I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. This is by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen, by the way. But I really liked the art style of it, and the storyline was very interesting. And so I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I don't read a lot of graphic novels or comic books or anything like that. I just don't. But this was definitely interesting, and I definitely intend to read all of these, as evidenced by the next book that I read in the month of July, which was Descender Volume 2. I also gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I really did just like these. They're very, I want to say they're very cute, and there are parts that are very cute, but also there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of drama and things like that, and so they're definitely very good, and I really did enjoy these. And like I said, the art style is just very, very nice. But yeah, the art style is just very cool, and I definitely like these. So yeah, Descender Volume 1 and 2 both got 4 out of 5 stars from me. The next book I read for the BookTube-A-Thon was one of my most anticipated books for this half of the year, and that is Lucky in Love by Casey West. I want to say this is the last video you're going to hear me talking about this book in, because I swear I talk about it in every video, but it's probably not, let's be real. I'll probably talk about this book forever, and I'll probably talk about Casey West in almost every video I ever film. I did finally get to read Lucky in Love by Casey West, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm not sure that I can give a Casey West book anything less than that. I don't know if I have it in me, but I really loved Lucky in Love. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to do a review on this book. I don't know if I'll do a standalone review for this, or if I will do like a review for it in a mini review video where I do a bunch of contemporaries. I haven't decided yet, but I think I'm probably gonna have to do a review for this book because I just really enjoyed it, and I just wanna you know, go into my thoughts a little bit more on it in a video that's not freakishly long. The next book I listened to was To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han, and I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't care for this book as much as everybody else on BookTube seems to love it. I did like it. I mean, there were things about it that I really enjoyed, but there were also things that just bothered me. Yeah, there were just things I couldn't get over with how Laura Jean, the main character, handled situations, or how, you know, how certain things happened. I just didn't care for this book as much as everybody else seemed to. It was not a bad book. I didn't dislike this book, but I also didn't love it. So like I said, it's a 3 stars. For 3 stars for me, it's just an average book. After that, I picked up another reread, which was 13 Little Blue Envelopes by Maureen Johnson, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't remember a lot of this book from when I read it, but I read it like 5 or 6 years ago, so it's been a long time since I read this book. I did like it quite a bit. Being older now that I've read it, I related to certain aspects of what was happening in this character's life a little bit more than I did the first time I read it, so I definitely liked it. 4 out of 5 stars for 13 Little Blue Envelopes. After that, I decided to listen to the book Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. Again, for me, 3 out of 5 stars is just an average book. Again, this book was just average, and I think this is how just dystopians are gonna be for me. It's just average. At least the first book. There was a point in the book I did laugh out loud because a character basically said out loud what I was thinking as I was thinking it. So I just thought that was pretty great. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It was good. I'll probably read the rest of the series at some point. But again, like with all the other 3-star books, first books in series, probably will pick up the rest of the books, but maybe not anytime soon. And then the last book I picked up in the month of July was William Shakespeare's Star Wars, The Empire Striketh Back by Ian Dosher. This is just a short little goofy book. My husband picked this out for me to read as my 7th book for the BookTube-A-Thon, which this book meant that I completed all of the challenges for BookTube-A-Thon. I read 7 books during the BookTube-A-Thon. I finished all the challenges, and yeah, I did pretty good for that. But I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I don't think you're supposed to take these books seriously. They're just kind of novelty books. Honestly, I feel like most people, not all, but most people who have these books on their shelves probably have never actually read them. They've just have them for the novelty of it. But it was pretty cool to see like Star Wars written out in Shakespearean talk and style, so that was kind of cool. But I'm not a huge fan of Star Wars. Like, it's not something I really care about. So I feel like if I cared about Star Wars a little bit more, this would have been way cooler. But because I'm kind of indifferent on Star Wars, this was just kind of a quirky little book for me to read. Which actually, I think this might have been published by Quirk Books. Yeah, this is published by Quirk Books, so it makes sense that it's a quirky book. But yeah, this was the last book I read in the month of July, and it was just a silly book to end the BookTube-A-Thon and my month on. So yeah, that is all of the books I read in the month of July. I read 21 books. I still can't get over that number. I feel like it's insane and it's not actually true, and I'm gonna wake up on August 1st and I won't have actually read all of those books. But I did read, actually read all of those books. Like I said, if you want to know more about any of these books, I will link their GoodReads descriptions in the description box, and you can go and check those out. So, if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.